So when I started learning Spanish, I had already taken 3 years of Spanish classes in school. So I kind of already had like a guide when I decided I wanted to take that seriously. So I'm not gonna say it was the easiest thing I ever did, but at least I already knew a little bit of the language here and there, you know what I'm saying? So then when I started learning French, I was like, bet, okay, I already know Spanish. You know, I'm a seasoned language learner. This is gonna be a breeze.
This gonna be a breeze.
And it was not. You know, I started listening to my little podcast here and there, and I was like, why don't I understand anything? But the point is, learning a language from zero is way different from learning a language you already have some familiarity with. So if I was to decide today that I wanted to learn a new language, let's say I just really develop a passion for Sweden and I want to learn Swedish. If I'm going to learn a new language today from zero, where would I start? So the first step in my opinion would be to develop a basic understanding of the language. I feel like it's only once you understand at least some of the language that you can begin to talk and form phrases and all that. That's exactly how babies learn to talk. They spend like 2 whole years just listening and taking in the language before they say their first word. So I feel like mimicking the natural process is the best way to go with this, although ideally we would be saying some words before 2 years into the process. Developing a basic understanding. Okay, so how am I going to go about this? The very first thing I would do would be to look up a list of the 1,000 most common words in your target language and just start studying them. Yes, studying, it's not that fun. So I'm going to start studying these words. Anki is a good free option. If you have a little more of a budget, working girl, I recommend the application Linguist. You can import a list of words and start practicing them, and it'll give you both context and the pronunciation of the words. And then if you're learning either English or Spanish, I definitely recommend the website Spanish Dict, and they even have lists of 1,000 there in the application. They have like 1,000 beginner words, 1,000 intermediate words, and 1,000 advanced words. So once I have my list, I would spend about 30 minutes every day just learning that basic vocabulary. Then I would pair that with some input. So ideally, you should be listening to your target language every single day. Eventually, you should start like consuming things that you like already just in that target language. For example, news, music, YouTube videos, what else would you like, TikToks. But when you're starting out, that might be a little counterintuitive because all that organic content is a little out of our understanding range. So I would start with a podcast, a nice simple podcast with basic sentence structures, all that. All right, so we're listening to the podcast, we're getting the input in, and any words I don't understand, I would be adding them to my deck or to my list of vocabulary words and keep practicing those. And before you know it, you're gonna start understanding bits and phrases of the podcast or whatever you're listening to, and eventually you'll be able to understand a lot of the language as long as it's spoken clearly and at a reasonable pace. Because honestly, in the English language there's like more than 1 million words, I believe. Probably with 1,000 you could understand the majority of everyday conversations. In between the input stage and the output stage, you're gonna want to refine a little bit, and this just involves learning what is the actual sentence structure, basic conjugations, present tense. And I wouldn't stay on this too long either. Grammar is important because you want to sound like you know what you're saying, but at the same time, that's also gonna come naturally with you practicing expressing yourself and with you submerging yourself in the language and listening to it every day. You're gonna automatically catch on to those things. So it's good to have an understanding of the grammatical structures, but don't stay on it too long. But do touch on it, but don't stay on it too long. So how do you go from just being able to understand a language to being able to speak it? So the ideal way obviously is to talk with native speakers, hopefully a person that can correct you and guide you. But now you say, but nobody speaks Swedish where I live. Understandable. Then I recommend finding a tutor that can correct you as you make mistakes and give you input. Now you say, well, Vic, I don't have money to be paying a tutor. Well, you're lucky we live in the digital age. If there's nobody around you that speaks the language and you can't find a tutor, I would recommend finding your way onto the internet and finding a language exchange partner, because there's gonna be somebody that wants to learn your language and that you want to learn their language, so you guys can help each other. And if none of that is working out for you, you're gonna have to talk to yourself. I don't make the rules, I don't. So yes, basically the vocabulary and the input is where I would start if I were to learn a language from zero today. And remember, the most important thing is to choose the methods that work for you and to be consistent with those methods. And if you do all that, I don't see why you shouldn't be talking fluent Swedish, okay? If you found this video helpful, consider subscribing, because you never know. I might pop out with a learning Swedish vlog in Sweden, how I learned Swedish video. Thanks for watching as always, and I will see you in the next video.